we'll leave that. I'm like, but what if you just push all the buttons?
Yeah, more.
Right? Just Christmas tree, like to the outside. They're like, well, just don't need
You
that.
get for free. Oh, well, I
That's
shouldn't
first
say
time.
for free, but you're including the whatever other exorbitants costs. Only because.
Yeah, so hard, it's itself.
What's that?
Yeah. I guess that's for something last year. Somebody else is like, well, I just don't feel.
All right. Hear my sound?
Exactly.
That's- It is 10:05. At this time, I'd like to call the October 12th, 2023 meeting of the Ohio Elections Commission to order. Mr. Richter, we call the roll, please.
Mr. Wilkins. Here. Mr. Knight. Here. Mr. Lyle. Here. Mr. Carroll. Here. Vice Chair, Demarcus.
Here.
Chair Kaufman.
Here.
6 of the 7 members are present. Ms. Hagan is not present. She submitted emails to, actually a text to Chris, indicating that not only were her kids sick, but she was sick and that she would not be able to attend the meeting.
Thank you. At this time, the first item on the agenda is approval of the.
Chair Coffey, if you don't mind, I'd make a motion to excuse Commissioner Hagan.
Second. Thank you. We have a motion on the floor that's been duly seconded. All in favor, signify by saying aye. Post name sign, motion carries with a vote of 6-0. Thank you. Okay, so the first item on the agenda is approval of the regular meeting minutes of September 27th, 2023, and regular meeting minutes of September 28th, 2023. Do we have a motion? Second. Okay. We have a motion on the floor that's been duly seconded. All in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Post same sign. Motion carries with a vote of 6-0. We're going to go a bit out of order. The first item that we're going to address is in the $50 fine category. It is case number 2023S-056, and we have someone here, Lucille Frank, that would like to address the commission. Sure.
So, the court reporter will swear you in if you would like to say anything. Just for your information, Ms. Frank, my recommendation to the commission, based on the, the fact that the report was filed, that it was late, and the response that you submitted, is to find a violation and impose a fine of $50.
Okay. Would you still like to address the commission?
Just wanted to say hello.
Wait, you have to be
Oh,
sworn in.
okay, sure.
Do you swear from to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so be God?
Yes, thank you. Just wanted to say thank you for the opportunity. We did submit a letter that detailed all of the reasons of why we were in that space. But really looking forward to the future where we have a treasurer who's doing really great work with us. And we are all up to date and look forward to never missing or being delayed on a report in the future. So that's what I want to say, and thank you.
Thank you. Any questions from commissioners?
On, compare, to the executive director, has this organization ever had a violation in the past?
Let me quickly double check. I'm pretty sure my answer is going to be no. Make sure that that is the case. So. Never mind. There are 2. The most recent was in 2017. There was a different treasurer at that time. the commission good cause that one. There have been a number of others dating back to 1990 for that matter. And the primary reason why I'm recommending the audit fund, there were a couple of reports outstanding. The most recent filing would have been due on January 31 of this year, and the report was filed on July 28th.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Hearing none, do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Okay.
We have a motion on the floor. It's been duly seconded. All in favor, signify by saying aye. Pose same sign. Motion carries with a vote of 6-0. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, the next item is also out of order. It will be case number 2023D-019, and Andy Garrett here. Who would like to, you like to address?
I just wanted to hear, I don't need to address Professor's questions.
Thank you.
This is the third preliminary review on an independent complaint filed with the commission members. The allegation was that the complainant did not properly disclaim the Facebook page. And if you read the complaint, which was presented all of you, as well as the response, the assertion was that the respondent did not create a campaign committee, and she had this. Well, she created the Facebook page without coming to any expenditures. She didn't identify herself as the responsible party. There was no funds expended, so therefore there was no real obligation to create a committee at that point. No contributions received or expenditures made. And so the respondent, you can see my synopsis of it. I sent the response to you. My recommendation is to find no violation because there was no financial obligation to create a committee, and all she did was create a Facebook page. I'll be glad to answer the questions the commission may have.
I'm going to Madam Chair, the recommendation of the executive director.
I'll second it.
We have a motion on the floor. It's been to the second. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Pose same sign. Motion carried with a vote of 6-0. Thank you. I'm going to go now. Thank you very much. Okay, so we will go back on the agenda to the first item, which is preliminary review. This is case number 2023G-015.
Madam Chair, members of the commission, similar to the prior case, this is a similar circumstance. The complaint asserts the respondent not timely filed a designation of treasurer. The respondent states that he ended up filing a designation of treasurer at the same time as he submitted his petitions. And again, he did not expect any funds prior to submitting the designation. Did circulate some previously held materials, but did not either submitted petitions or become a candidate up to that point. And so similar to my last recommendation, this too is a recommendation where I'm recommending the commission find the violation.
Question to the executive director.
So does it, I'm guessing the answer is no, but my question is, I mean, he did expend funds for the signs. He just expended them in a prior campaign and is reusing them.
Correct.
So does campaign finance law account for that by saying since it was already purchased, you can just reuse it
Not really, no. You can reuse them. And
without reporting?
Yeah, well, presumably at some point it would become kind of an in-kind to the campaign committee. But my recommendation when I get a call on this is, before you do anything like that, create a committee. So you don't have this kind of situation occurring where somebody can file a complaint against you. Because there hasn't been any contributions received or expenditures made, you reusing old signs.
But the contribution was the old sign, right? So that's a contribution from somebody.
You could reflect that, but they were paid for, it was created previously.
So
Which again, that's why I would normally recommend that somebody create the committee, just to keep
just so it's clear.
a situation like this from occurring, yeah.
Okay, fair enough.
On the recommendation of the executive director.
Second.
We have a motion on the floor to duly seconded. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Post same sign. Motion carried with a vote of 6-0. Next, case is 2023B-018. Director.
This was a little bit different, at least. Here the complaint was that the respondent did not use the phrase paid for by, but merely used the term sponsored on certain materials that he circulated. The respondent responded and said that he ended up changing all of the materials that it previously had sponsored to reflect paid for by. My recommendation to find the violation, though, is based on the commission's history in terms of the assertion in the complaint was not that there was no disclaimer. The materials were disclaimed, just the words paid for by were not present. And historically, the commission has found no violation in circumstances where there was an otherwise complete disclaimer and the phrase paid for by was not included on the materials. And so again, my recommendation is to find the violation. We can answer the questions that the commission may have.
Question. So does if you were to just take the literal legal statute, take OEC precedent aside, would it be a violation?
It's a good question that we've never had a situation like this before where the use of the term sponsor was included there. What the statute says is that I have to look at to see the specific language, but essentially it says that the mere inclusion of, let me get the exact language. The statute. This is one of the later portions of the statute, 351720. Yeah, what it was a statute says 351720. The disclaimer identification described in Division B of this section, which is what it says essentially have to be the name of the committee. When paid for by a candidate, legislative campaign fund, campaign committee shall be identified by the words paid for by, followed by the name of the entity. The identification of disclaimer may use reasonable abbreviations for common terms such as committee. The disclaimer paid political advertisement is not sufficient to meet the requirements of this section. That's what the statute says.
So it specifically requires payment.
That's what the statute says, correct. And, you know, being I'll identify myself as such back in 1996, when the commission became independent, being the good bureaucratic person that I am and following the statutes, my recommendation for these kind of circumstances was to find violation by good cause non-imposed fine. And after discussion, the commission said, no, if, you know, that's where we kind of established the policy at that point. If the disclaimer included on the materials is otherwise sufficient, which at the time meant giving the committee treasurer's address, they weren't going to find a violation when the mere exclusion was the term paid for by. And so that's where the policy has kind of, been established and run forward by the commission. Just continuing to go along with what the commission previously said.
And so, I guess, in our hierarchy of requirements, do we typically, or from a mission perspective, and the reason that this was formed, are we more to uphold the Ohio Revised Code Campaign Finance laws or previous OEC policy precedent?
I'm looking at it, and I appreciate this, the nature of, what the statute says. Again, I'm following from the established precedent of the commission long-established precedent of the commission, you know, in terms of why the decision was originally made and the subsequent decisions through the years. And so I'm making a similar recommendation based on what the commission has historically done. But I think there's the logic in it is that the most important thing why you have a disclaimer on campaign materials is to identify the responsible party. And if the name of the committee is there and present, party is properly identified. And the mere exclusion of phrase paid for by, I don't recall these words being used by the commission way back when, is that it would be considered somewhat redundant, you know, in terms of the committee itself is disclaiming responsibility for the materials and saying, this is our material, here's our identification, here's our disclaimer of it, and merely excluding the word paid for by is a minor factor in terms of the identification required by the statute.
Thanks.
But Mr. Richter, the statute does pay for by.
Correct.
Move the recommendation of the executive.
We have a motion on the floor that's been duly seconded. All in favor? Signify by saying aye. Opposed, same sign.
Yes.
Okay, motion carries with the vote of 5-1.
I can't, it is associated with you, the secretary of state stuff, so can you get out of here? And then we agree to say something in the back curtain.
All right. Again, we're gonna go out of order, so we're gonna do the advisory opinion next. That would be 2023 BLC -01. I believe there's Mr. McTighe present.
Madam Chair, members of the commission received this advisory opinion request a couple weeks ago. In reviewing it, well, you can see the response that I made to the advisory opinion request. I think not just because the Federal Election Commission approved the intent of the organization. In looking at a good public policy, I think I would say, considering what they're trying to do, the efforts undertaken, the fact that it's a bipartisan or nonpartisan action, depending on how you want to look at it, to me, it made sense. And so I wrote the opinion along those lines. I'll be glad to answer any of the questions that the commission may have as it relates to that. And then the commission would like to hear further from Mr. McTighe. He is present as well.
Madam Chair, I do have one question. Mr. Richter has emailed me a draft a few days ago. So I guess my question is for the executive director. That draft you emailed me is the same draft that is now before the commission.
That is correct.
Okay.
I have not received any comments back from anybody that
Okay.
indicated any changes or alterations. And even after reviewing it, I did not make any further changes, even like indicating to you that I might.
Right. Thank you. That's the only thing I wanted to ask, and my client is obviously very happy with this draft, so. If there are any questions, I'll try to answer them.
Yes, at this point, Madam Chair, members of the commission, if the commission is okay with the advisory opinion, I would suggest a motion to approve the advisory opinion and the direction for the chair to sign on behalf of the committee.
I'll move the executive director's recommendation in the opinion and then signing it. At the end.
Thank you.
We have a motion on the floor that's been duly seconded. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries with a vote of 6-0. And that was.
Madam Chair, members of the commission, considering what's left on the agenda in terms of the, I guess I'd say the argument that would be offered by Mr. Hartman to determine if the complaint was frivolous, and other parties as it relates to that, and the nominal hearing involving Hartman and Rakowski are the only other two matters aside from the group recommendations. And I see staff, the attorneys from the Secretary of State's office here on behalf of the Secretary, and all of the referrals that we have before us today are from the Secretary of State's office. I'd say let's take the group recommendations under item 4 and process those. I've provided Mr. Katz with my recommendation sheet, so he is aware. And if he would like to address any of the other matters, he can certainly do so. Otherwise, we can go through those items and then allow them to go ahead and move along before we get to the other remaining items on the commission's agenda. That's acceptable to the commission.
Sorry.
Yep.
Okay, so in the $50 fine category, these are all going to begin with 2023S dash. So we have 012, 018, 020, 025, 030, 032, 050, 052, and 055.
Members of the commission, these are circumstances where initially the respondents were referred for failure to file. In the intervening period, reports have been filed, a response was submitted. In pretty much every case, the actual submissions were much greater than 2 weeks to really a month after the reports were due. And so my recommendation is to find violation and impose a fine of $50.
Madam Chair, I'll move the executive director's recommendation. Your question.
I have to actually go so fast. I did not hear 056.
That's because that was the one we dealt with
Earlier.
earlier.
Okay, thank you.
I'll second the motion.
You have a motion on the floor. It's been duly seconded. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries with a vote of 6-0. The next category is a $100 fine category. These will also begin 2023S dash. So we have 013, 039, 049, and 053.
And these are circumstances where either a response was not submitted in the report file or there were prior matters involving any one of these groups. I think all of them actually were situations where the reports were filed and no response was submitted. And so my recommendation is to find violation and impose a fine of $100.
Any questions?
Mr. Richter, just a quick question. The ASHTO 13.
Originally, it was on the $25 per day category. When I did my updates yesterday, they had filed their report. 13. They filed their report on August 30th. And so I didn't reflect that initially. Subsequently, I saw that it was filed, and so I gave them credit for filing the report. And so that's the reason for my recommendation.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions?
Madam Chair, I'll move the recommendation of the executive director.
Second.
All right, we have a motion on the floor. It's been duly seconded. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried with a vote of 6-0. Next case is a reconsideration case number 2021S-008. Vacate the previous finding, consolidate case numbers 2021S-008 and 2023S-001. Find a violation and impose a fine of $50. Oh, I'm sorry, $150. My bad.
Members of the commission, you all would have received in yesterday's updates the response that was submitted on behalf of this organization. I'm highlighting it here just to make sure everybody's okay with my recommendation. We had the prior, essentially the response was that the PAC has effectively been, silent, vacant, however you want to look at it, since like 2010 or 11, I think they said. There were some priors prior to that. And then the 2021 case that we have here where we found a violation and imposed a $25 fine. They submitted their reports. They submitted a response. Their request was to have the matter, was to have the cases, the one case reconsidered, have the cases consolidated. And then they requested that good cause be found, only because of the time lapse between when they effectively stopped operating until today, essentially, or recently when they filed the report. And they asked that good cause be found. Considering that the commission's general policy on reconsiderations, they didn't give any other basis for not submitting a report prior to very recently, within the last couple of weeks. And so my recommendation, as has already been read, is to go through all that, essentially find a violation and impose a fine of $150 because of this case and the prior matter. But I thought it only appropriate to address in more detail their response to see if the commission wanted to go in a different way from my recommendation. But I'm comfortable with my recommendation.
Questions? Hearing none, do we have a motion?
I'll motion.
Second. A motion on the floor that's been duly seconded. All in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries with a vote of 6-0. The next case is case number 2023S-010.
Madam Chair, members of the commission, this is a situation again where they were originally referred for failing to file a couple of reports. The reports have been filed on August, so they're reflected in the records of August 30th. There was a prior matter in which 2021 in which the commission found a violation, imposed a fine of $50. The reason for a $200 fine here is when they submitted their response, as you can see, as I have reflected in my explanation, they merely said, yep, the report's been filed and the secretary's office has terminated the committee. No other real explanation was given in their response as to what the circumstances were, why it's late, what was going on. And so that being the case, I'll give them credit for filing the response, but they really didn't tell me anything. And so whereas normally I'd be recommending $100 or $150 fine here, I'm recommending $200 because they really didn't tell me anything in their response.
Any questions from commissioners?
I'll move to accept the executive director's report recommendation.
Thank you.
I'll second.
We have a motion.
It was at my turn or something. Yeah.
Come in next to last. Okay, so we have a motion on the floor that's been duly seconded. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries with a vote of 6-0. Okay, so the next category is $25 a day fine with reconsideration option. These cases all begin with 2023S-. So we have 002, 004, 008, 009, 011, 015, 027, 044, 045, and 046. Mr. Richter.
These are all situations where the report has not yet been filed. Generally speaking, these are all committees that are before the commission for the first time. But again, reports have not been filed, so I'm recommending that we impose the per diem fine until such time as the report is submitted. The one case that I would call to everybody's attention is the last one on the list, 2023S-046, where they did some. The deputy treasurer at least submitted a response, which he said he admits responsibility for failing to file, was unable to complete the task if he lost his information. He indicates that he will be and he couldn't access the system, so he had lost his ability to access the system. And he intends to resubmit or intends to submit the outstanding reports and terminate the committee shortly, but he hadn't done so. And so my recommendation at this point is maybe it'll encourage him to take quick action, is to find a violation. As the others can impose a fine of $25 per day until such time as the report is filed, and giving them the opportunity to have the matter reconsidered.
Commissioners.
I'll move the recommendation of the executive director.
Second.
Right, we have a motion on the floor that's been duly seconded. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Both same sign. Motion carries with a vote of 6-0. The next couple of cases are to find a violation, impose a fine of $15,475 plus $25 a day with reconsideration option. These are cases number 2023S-035, 2023S-0441, and 2023S-051.
Madam Chair, members of the commission, these are three cases where there are all multiple violations. Commission has found in the past. We double check it here. We got some sort of service on them, regular mail or certified mail. The reports have yet to be filed, and so kind of the next step in the process is to impose is to identify a fine of $25 per day from the date of the report. One report was due with the 21 annual, which would have been due on January 31st of 2022 until today's meeting date, and then also $25 a day into the future. And so that's my recommendation for these three matters. I'll be glad to answer the questions, Commissioner McKenna.
I do have one question. So remind me at what point we submit over to the Attorney General's office for collections.
Well, I will indicate that that is one of the benefits that we will have of adding the Springer back to the commission's payroll, is that we will do this more often. The 19 case has probably been referred to the AG's office. I'm not sure about the 21 case at this point as it relates to one of the matters. But, you know, we should be, and will refer the $25 a day cases. Probably our normal process is send out notice. If we do a don't get, you know, we may have to send out multiple notices. Then we'll send out one additional notice that says, hey, you get 15 days to come into compliance, or we'll get referred, and then we'll refer at that point. That normally occurs within 2 months to 6 months after the actual finding by the commission, and then we'll get those referred over there. So that 19 case that I'm looking at on 51 should already be over there. So anyway, that's our little.
Thank you. I'll move that we accept the recommendation to the executive director.
Second.
I have a motion. Well, it's been duly seconded. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries with a vote 6-0. Okay, so the next case is 2023S-060. That is to be continued upon request of the staff attorneys.
Excuse me.
Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Chris.
No, you're okay. Yeah, have you heard about this case before you do?
Yes, sure, go ahead.
So just the Secretary of State's office, as part of its annual referral project, contacts the boards of elections to ensure that committees haven't wrongly filed at the Board of Elections instead of with our office. In this instance, we have now been made aware that the committee did actually file these reports with the local Board of Elections. So while it was at the wrong location, we have now been updated, and we were checking earlier this week to make sure no one had filed. Again, that they have actually filed all of these reports, and we would recommend this case being dismissed. Thank you.
Question, do you know, how timely was it? Do you know?
I didn't follow up to ask. I just know that when we asked back in March if they, as part of this project, we were told they had not filed, but
Because there was a response submitted. There was a response submitted by the former treasurer in this particular matter. Yeah, indicates she's not held the office for about 10 years, and that's who I think you may have given us as the contact person, because they hadn't updated And, you know, she otherwise had no other information, but she responded. And the reason why I was continuing it was I noticed in your records that an updated designation of treasurer had been submitted fairly recently, but that no report was reflected. And so just curious as to that set of circumstances.
Just as of Tuesday, when we contacted the boards again, we were told that actually, yes, these were filed and it was a miscommunication from the board back in March. And we don't traditionally refer people that have filed the wrong location.
Sure.
So just, we will now be gathering these reports to have it properly reported on our website as well. But I don't know. Clearly, it hasn't been done since you had checked and it wasn't there, but it will be timely done.
Okay. And so again, you are requesting the matter be dismissed.
Yes.
Okay. So based on his statement to the commission, and the request from the Secretary of State's office, I ask that the matter be dismissed at their request.
I'll move.
Second.
Your motion on the floor that's been duly seconded. All in favor to dismiss case number 2023-S060, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Both same sign. Motion carries with a vote of 6-0. Thank you. And then the next. The next three are continued upon request of respondent. These are cases number 2023-S-006, 2023-S-042, and 2023-S-048. Those have been continued. The next set is continued service. These all begin with 2023-S dash. So 003, 005, 007, 014, 016, 017, 019, 021, 022, 023, 024, 026, 028, 029, 031, 033, 034, 036, 037, 038, 040, 043, 047, 054, 057, and 058, and 059.
Those matters are now continued, Madam Chair. Thank you.
Okay,
You can do the refunds that since we're there, and you're pretty quick and you get back ready.
Thank you for your time.
thank you. Next group we will go, we will take are the reconsiderations. This is case number 2023-R-177. Reconsider the matter, vacate the previous imposition of the per diem fine and instead impose a fine of $100.
Madam Chair, members of the commission, this case came originally before the commission in June, and a response was submitted, but reports hadn't been filed. I double checked with the staff of the Board of Elections at that time, and they said, nope, they had still received a response. So I recommended the commission found a violation and imposed a per diem fine in the intervening period. The report was filed August 23rd, it looks like. And so now we can go forward and resolve this matter. And so my recommendation to the commission is to reconsider the matter, vacate the previous imposition of the per diem fine, and instead impose a fine of $100. I'll be glad to answer any questions the commission may have.
Any questions, commissioners? Hearing none, do we have a motion?
So moved.
We have a motion on the floor that's been duly seconded. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Pose same sign. Motion carries, 6-0. The next is case number 2023-R-228. The recommendation is to reconsider the matter, vacate the previous imposition of the per diem fine and instead impose a fine of $50.
Madam Chair, members of the commission, excuse me, this is the first time for this committee to be before the commission. And in looking back at the materials, even though I recommended a $25 a day fine at that point, it appeared the report had actually been filed prior to the commission taking the matter under consideration. And I must have missed that somehow. And so my recommendation here is to reconsider the matter, vacate the previous imposition of the per diem fine. And that's the basis for my recommendation of only finding a $50 fine, was that were this matter to have been addressed in June, otherwise it would have been a $50 fine. So That's my recommendation. Those.
Questions of commissioners?
We accept the recommendation of the director.
So,
Okay, we have a motion on the floor to a second. All in favor, signify by saying aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries with a vote of 6-0. The next two cases are 2016S-003 and 2017S-011, excuse me. The recommendation is to reconsider the matter, vacate the previous imposition of the per diem fine and instead impose a fine of $150.
Madam Chair, members of the commission, if you see my synopsis of it included in the reconsideration worksheet, Treasurer gave a bit of a history saying, you know, when the group was created. They didn't really collect any money. They really didn't do anything. Reports, you know, they actually indicated the reports were filed in 2000. We made findings against them and imposed pretty fines, and they actually, and we referred them at the time. And you can see now that they haven't gotten contact from a collection agency requesting $45,000, which would have indicated the time frame from when the reports were supposed to have been filed until they actually, until the matter was referred to the Attorney General's office. Well, they actually filed the reports in September of 2019, but they never requested reconsideration by the commission or let us know that. The committee was terminated at the time. And so now they're coming in requesting reconsideration. And so kind of typical, I'm recommending that we reconsider the matter, vacate the previous imposition of the per diem fine and instead impose a fine of $150. I'll be glad to answer any questions that the commission may have.
Question, Madam Chair. Just want to make sure I understand. So it was referred to the AG's office for $45,000 and they settled for some amount?
No, no, they didn't. After they got contacted by the AG's office, they then came back to us and requested reconsideration, and that's what we are.
But not until they.
Not until they got contacted by the collection agent, correct?
But, and they got contacted with the collection agent when?
I don't have the file here in front of me, I could get it, but probably knowing that it was requested in the last month or so.
Oh, but they filed the reports. That's what I
Filed the
thought.
reports
They
in 2000.
in 2019. Okay, so
They
they
were
filed.
contacted recently,
Okay.
fairly recently, requesting that much
Got
money.
it. And there you go. Why are we getting contacted? We filed. Got
Right.
it. Okay.
And we now, my gut tells me when we would have referred this, if they're getting contacted recently, we would have referred it for, let's say, $25,000 somewhere in there. And then, but it keeps adding on, or maybe $30,000. And that's how you get to the 45 is that, you know, they got contacted recently and when you go back all that time, that's how much they're actually out. And so I'm recommending something that's more typical of how we would deal with an active case. Let's put it that way.
So, I mean, with 150, so it looks like 3 years and 2 years when they filed. Would 150 represent what amounts to 5 years and lateness, I guess?
That's about what I would recommend to on a case coming before us, even in that kind of time frame, if they responded and had they filed a report. You know, it's about what I would be recommending under the set of circumstances. And so this is typical of the, you guys haven't seen a lot of reports from the AG's office in terms of, we've got X number of millions outstanding. This is typical, though, I would say, of what we sometimes will do in terms of doing reconsideration, in terms of what we send over here to them and what we end up getting back, which I would reflect is more, which I would indicate is more reflective of our fines, our kind of typical fine schedule. Certainly, it could be a little bit more.
I guess intuitively, it does feel light for 5 years worth of lateness, but,
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not looking to die on a sword over it. It's just, it seems like we do 50 for a matter of months and now 150 for 5 years, 52 violations. Just feels light, I guess, in comparison.
I'm not gonna disagree with you. That's kind of generally how I make my recommendations back to you guys. And, when the commission originally, well, I don't know if I would say originally, reached out to me back in 2021, I'd say, and said, hey, we want you to start posing more fines with the prior group that was just before you. I kind of changed a little bit, and now you see more yellow fines as we saw today, whereas oftentimes those were all in good cause.
So we adjusted it more on the short end, but really haven't adjusted much on the longer end.
That's probably, I'll be honest with you, that's probably a fair statement, only because we have fewer cases that I deal with on reconsideration. So I could start to look at doing, let's say, more stringent fines on reconsideration matters. Potentially, yes, but that's kind of where we are, generally speaking.
Thank you.
Right?
I have a question.
So the reason that the per diem continued to accrue was not because they hadn't filed their reports, just because we had no response noting that they filed their reports. We had no knowledge of their reports being filed.
At the time we refer it to the AG's office, it's this, here's, we update it to what it is at that point. And then they take it, and interest gets added to it and so forth. And I can't speak for the AG's office, but I'm fairly confident that they're not reaching back out, let's say, in this case, to the Secretary of State's office to say, has that report been submitted? When we would have referred it.
So since we didn't know, then that's all we can do is continue to follow the
Correct.
protocol or whatever decision we've made.
I'm looking at this, exactly. This was on the 16 case, which is where the. Oh, that was the fine. So it says here on that. It would have been referred in October of 2018 at $33,000. And so, when it was referred in October of 2018, they had not yet filed a report in September of 19. And so that keeps building until such time as the report is filed. And then interest is added as well.
Madam Chair, I guess, going back to, some discussion and decisions that this commission has made, that our goal. And we're not here to like rake our citizens over the coals, but to get compliance. So the outreach from the AG's office did get compliance. And for me, that should be our goal.
I agree to a point. I mean, I think if 5 years to an AG call, 45 grand results in $100 fine, it doesn't create a lot of incentive for people to comply in a timely fashion, right? It's kind of like after you get to 50, might as well let it go, right? I mean, so I'm not sure that. I mean, I think part of being compliance is at least having a fine structure that creates the incentive to comply. So I agree, but I kind of disagree with the policy.
Maybe this is an extreme case. I mean, yeah, it seems, I mean, I think it's a long time. Again, I'm agreeing with it, like that. Yeah, we have the fines.
Madam Chair, we've had discussion about the AG's office and when they go after people, they don't put it on their higher priority list. And so that's part of the problem too. When the AG actually reaches out to the cases that we forward over to them. We've had long discussions with this commission on that process in and of itself. So that drives the days of per diem up.
It sounds like it's collection agent that the AG's office is turned it over to, right? So that the agent is getting a substantial portion of
But they'd already have done the reports by the time the AG called. So the AG's call that is create the filing. They just, I guess they were terminating or something at the time, so that, but something else through the filing point, not the AG's call. And I mean, to a certain extent, if by the time it gets to the AG's office, we've already contacted them how many times and they've ignored it. I don't know. I guess I'm personally less forgiving in the situation. It wasn't even the AG call here. Like, I'm just thinking like 50, I'm just thinking relative. If we're gonna do $150 fines for 5 years and 2 violations, we should go back to good cause for 6 months or something. I just think, right? I mean, if the goal is compliance, okay, that's fine. It just should be more equitable across the board. We either really low or it just feels out of balance to me. $50 for a few months and then $150 for 5 years. That's just my view.
Director, were they responsive? When I take a look at the referral being received, one case in 2017. The other complaint, but were they responsive at the time?
Based on how we dealt with things then, as I'm looking at the 2016 case where we imposed the $50 fine, that would have been a classic situation of a filing made at that time, but no response submitted to the commission, and that's why I would have indicated a $50 fine when we dealt with that case in 2016, that's 03, when we dealt with it in March of 2016.
And you wouldn't know if service was received, if there was service provided, if they didn't know that this inquiry was in front of the commission.
The only way we go forward is if we get some sort of service on them. I mean, I could go back and try and find my outline sheet. Yeah, I could go back and find my outline sheet for that 16 case and see what kind of service we got. But considering it's a 16S03, that means we got it in early in 2016, and we dealt with it in March, which means we would have gotten it really early. Because, normally we're putting things out. I always like to say we're putting things out 45 to 60 days in advance. After we get it, when we send out the notice, I'm fairly confident in that situation. We would have gotten the green mail, certified mail service on that case. And then moved it forward on that 16 case.
Okay, thank you.
So that's my guess, at least.
Chair, I'll move the recommendation of the executive director.
So,
Motion on the floor that's been doing seconded. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign.
Nay.
Nay as well.
Oh, you are as well.
Nay.
Okay. I'll just quickly add, thank you. I mean, I appreciate the conversation. I'll try to take that into consideration as we move forward on some of these matters. You're going to see a couple of interesting ones over the next few months because I already got one.
I like interesting.
I've already got one in, and from talking before the meeting today to talking with staff at the Cuyahoga County Board of Elections, we've probably got a couple more coming shortly hereafter. So,
Madam Chair,
preview county attractions.
if I may, just continuing this discussion, piggybacking on our discussion here, what Phil said. Is it possible to maybe put this for a discussion point on one of our agendas? So we can understand the history and number of folks and rationale and consider what Ernie is saying. I mean, I think we need to.
The preview coming attractions. We're going to be putting into our account today a check for $100 that we got today that I talked with staff, the Cuyahoga County Board, on an upcoming case that we'll put up for reconsideration. That case compared to this is a piker compared to that case. Okay. but it involves a situation where after talking about it with the staff and board, it's the treasurer who is paying money on behalf of a candidate, and they have a laundry list of priors. And to a degree, the staff of the board, and the lady I work with up there is normally not the most forgiving person, when it comes down to dealing with these kind of circumstances, but even she kind of said, the treasurer, yeah, she's culpable because of like many outstanding reports as there were, but that the candidate presumably was more culpable. And so as she and I discussed it, I suggested this lady send in $100 check, and I'll put it back before you have it for reconsideration. I don't think it'll be on the next meeting. It'll probably be on the one after that. And so we can readdress that at that point. That will be November
16th, 16th. Yeah.
No,
6th.
November 2nd. November 2nd.
Because those four cases are 200 and didn't continue on the 16th. Then he said,
Williamson?
oh, Williamson, no.
Yeah, no, I'm thinking Williamson.
Okay, my fault.
So anyway, I'll address that in advance of the meeting as
It'd be
well.
nice to be able to do it before Mrs. Kaufman is off, so.
Oh, yeah,
To have her experience in the last 5 years here,
we can,
so.
Yeah, we've had many conversations.
Right.
So. She weren't obviously privy to, just for the fact that you weren't on the commission, so
Right.
yeah, I think that bringing some of that into, conversation and getting new insights, I think is. Thank you.
okay.
So that motion carried with the vote of 4-2.
Correct.
The next matter will be a hearing to determine if the complaint was frivolous. That is case number 2023 D-006. And I believe we have. And at this point, if you all don't mind, we're going to take a 5-minute break. And so we can get set up. And so it's 11:01. We'll come back at 11:06.
Yeah, I thought so. I thought it was the correct side. Yeah, up against this. You're gonna know. Sorry, I'm sorry.
Switch sides.
I wasn't able to find the. Oh, yeah.
No, I appreciate it.
I longest one. Let's go.
I'll spend a lot of time.
Yeah, it's kind of neat, especially during the summer months, they get some different views on it. Yeah, absolutely.
Try not to screw your file up.
I'm always encourage.
I get
two
copies.
Okay.
Okay.
Our primary.
That's
Only
How many?
is.
Three.
More than. Right, and trying to take that all into consideration.
First, 3 copies.
Absolutely.
I'll make 4. Going that way, I can get a look. Thank you. You're welcome.
Right.
Right, well, and that's where, there's the advisory thing. You think, yeah. Here's a minute. Now, when we're talking about.
I mean, everyone don't like the problem. If I'm not back, you guys come back. I'm still waiting. That's fine. That's worth.
Williams, you pull a chair up or here?
Yeah, probably.
Put them in the well.
Well.
I'll probably put it right.
Right here. Okay.
No, it's the.
Has your client gotten, no, not him, on the advisory opinion, gotten feedback from anybody in terms of wanting to do things and so forth, or?
Well, I think they reached out.
Yeah, reached out.
What is the requested advisory opinion?
There's an organization to defend digital campaigns, and they provide cybersecurity software free of charge to candidates, and but they're a corporation, right? So they're not. So they want to make sure it was not an in-kind. And
Right.
the commission agreed that as long as you're, bipartisan or nonpartisan, it's okay.
Yeah.
And it doesn't have to be reported.
So,
Just tell them to claim to be a labor union.
I'm a former campaign committee just to get free cybersecurity.
Wait a minute, but you get what you pay for.
Well, yeah, I think they're funded. I think they probably have pretty good funding, although I don't know by who.
So did the ballot board approve?
Oh, yeah, it was a 10-minute meeting.
I like a 50-point summary.
Well, they have to decide whether it was, more than one subject. That's what.
Right. I
Right.
was going to challenge it, but I got 3 votes against me on the Supreme Court already.
Yeah, well, there was really no basis for, I don't think there's any basis for challenging it. It's long. It's
Convoluted,
complex.
bureaucratic.
Okay, I thought the terms I would use.
Wait a minute, you create a,
I said it has multiple safeguards. For ways to win it.
you form a group of former judges, retired judges, in order to form another group
Yeah,
it's like,
and then you have the special masters.
oh my
who
gosh.
In the end, make the decision on a dispute court.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
Yeah.
There's a number of tiers.
We're Supreme Court changing subjects on the redistricting, the state senate, state house redistricting lawsuits.
Well, we just filed
Unless you
3 challenges renewed on state house.
come in.
Supreme cases.
No, it was, the cases were still pending for 2 years ago. So new.
You'd ask for like a scheduling order or something, that got denied.
Yeah, that got denied, so, because we asked for it in anticipation of filing objections. Now, the objections have been filed,
Gotcha.
and we haven't refiled a motion, which we probably should. But we figured the court would sue respond to it.
I may do an amicus in that case. I may do an amicus.
Yeah, it's, it's,
The problem, the argument is,
Yeah, that's.
for the your side,
Gonna be,
proportionality is now the holy grail.
yes, that's right.
And all else be damned. All that other stuff goes out the window.
Well, I think. About personality is like the
And that's my,
Yeah.
They didn't want me.
No, they-
Well,
some of Maureen wants it to be a
We'll see what
paramount,
happens.
but.
Obviously, it's a different.
December 31st, 20,
By one
20.
member, that's.
But because.
All the difference.
It's all the difference.
Fortunately.
All before it's.
But then there's nothing, you're the only one that might allow this. Are they gonna put you in,
number 3. On these, right here.
3.
Number 3. Oh, 6.
Coronary.
Oh.
Than before.
Well, some of them are.
Yeah.
I know.
Yeah, right.
Well, majority are, is responding in that
Right.
way. Say, yes, like, we are, yes.
So you didn't go to the meeting because there you are.
Well, Bill wanted to, when something that Bill really could come back and forth. So,
It's much more enjoyable than this.
Who's that flavor?
Jerry,
Oh, okay.
This is something a little different.
Wait, Crystal.
Yeah, Crystal making copies, he said. We need copies. Okay, so let's just wait for him.
Put my pen on. Are we going to 68 first or are we going?
Yes. Yes. 16. I can introduce it and then that I can go from there. Well, look, we went all over this. I'll do it with us.
Okay.
Yeah, it's kind of like Bill's email. Sorry, I just know. Sorry, Bill. Sorry.
Okay, Barry.
Oh, there's some work. Right. We ate the police.
You spend a lot of time.
I put it like this ticket. Okay. Oh, Lord. It's 11:09. We'll bring the meeting back into session. Okay.
Madam Chair, members of the commission, this is case number 2023 BJ-006, Granieri versus Tobias et al. In, I think it was June, it's been July. The commission addressed this matter and found that there was no violation to dismiss the case. At that point, Mr. Hartman, representing one of the respondents, had requested that the matter be found frivolous. The commission didn't find that it was frivolous at that point, but determined to set this date as the date for review of whether to determine that the matter was frivolous or not. And so we are here today to hear Mr. Hartman is here on behalf of the respondents. Mr. McTighe is here on behalf of the complainant to determine whether this matter should be declared frivolous by the commission. If the commission does so, then presumably we would hold a subsequent hearing to determine the value to be determined to impose as a sanction for the matter being found frivolous. So with that, I would presume we would hear from Mr. Hartman.
Ms. McTighe and I kind of talked previously, logistically kind of figured out the best way, and I think we kind of thought
Okay,
putting Mr. Granieri on and then Ms. McTighe address it first will be
you're satisfied with that? I think we'll be.
economy for the commission. So
Okay.
I've already canceled my 12 o'clock lunch, so I can stay.
You're welcome.
Well,
That's not an invitation.
as I told Ms. McTighe, I had a 7.5 hour hearing yesterday at a Board of Elections. I'm not looking to break that record today.
Okay. Jokes.
Jokes aside.
Done with the jokes.
Parental approval for the self-guide. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Sir, could you state your name?
Andrew Granieri.
And are you the complainant in this case?
Hey.
Okay. So do you understand that we're here today to determine whether or not the complaint you filed was frivolous, correct?
That's what I understand.
Okay.
Let me just, please speak up, okay? So,
Okay, sure.
And answer, do your best to answer completely, not just nodding your head and agreeing things. Thank you.
Okay, let me start kind of with a broad question about what was your motivation in filing this complaint?
I'm a resident of the district,
You mean the school
of
district?
the school district
Yeah, okay.
that this is in. I've got 2 kids in the district. I supported the campaign issue of the levy. And I noted multiple signs popping up around my regular routes that did not appear to have a disclaimer, which I know is an important part of any PAC when they have campaign signs for or against an issue or a candidate. So I took it upon myself to the few signs and submit a complaint.
how were you aware that there's even such a thing called the disclaimer law?
My wife ran for school board in 2021, and so I saw some of the behind the scenes things that most citizens don't encounter, and one of them was this law of disclaimers, so that all of her campaign materials had to have a paid for statement, so that the funding for that is traceable.
Okay. And you mentioned something about your routes. What are you talking about? Driving routes.
Taking my kids to and from school, their friends' houses around neighborhoods, their grandparents, nothing more.
With regard to, just so we're clear, the signs that we're talking about are the signs in which that say vote no.
Yeah.
And did you have in mind in filing this complaint, trying to harass anybody?
No, I didn't know any of the people. No relation.
Okay, and by the people, you mean the people that you named in the complaint?
People, yes. Did not know them personally, socially.
So again, then what was your motivation for bothering to file a complaint?
Our school district has had multiple levies since I've been a resident, and this was not the first time anti-levy signs professionally printed. It looked like they were produced by a campaign up right alongside other candidates and causes. It was just very frustrating to have another year, another levy where folks weren't disclosing where these signs were coming from and who was paying for them. So from the street view, it looked like an effort without a disclaimer explaining who was supporting it or funding it.
And again, why did it look that way to you?
Because they were on that poly plastic campaign sign material, and they were professionally made. They had the same metal stakes that the other signs that, it just matched. It had.
And in your complaint, I noticed that the very first sentence in the complaint says, it's the second sentence. I am concerned that the organized effort to campaign against the Forest Hills School District levy is not properly identifying itself. And you use the word organized effort for the term organized effort. And is that based on what you just explained? That
Yeah, they didn't look like they were hand painted on the back of some scrap plywood. They didn't, you didn't see them coming out of Lowe's or a commercial store. These looked like professional campaign signs.
they didn't look like homemade signs.
Yeah, they did not.
Okay. With regard to the individuals that you did name in the complaint and with a picture of the signs that were in the yards, how did you end up with those people? Okay, or those houses?
It was houses either directly or, an adjacent street that I'd pass frequently, taking my kids to, like I said, to school, their friends' houses or their grandparents who live nearby.
Oh, and so go into a little detail about the process that you used to put your complaint together.
Well, I was actually leaving the school and saw a house that had 3 or 4 of the signs, and I thought, you know what, this is worth filing a complaint board, this is really what's happening. I mean, it just felt very brazen without knowing the context behind who paid for the signs. It looked very much like a organized campaign effort when they're stuck right alongside the other official campaign costs and the other signs that have the disclaimer.
Well, your complaint has a number of photos.
Mhm.
Okay, so
Oh,
tell us how,
well,
that's what I was getting at.
I left the school neighborhood and took my camera, or I'm sorry, took my phone, which is also a camera calculator. Use the GPS from Google Maps. When I snap a picture, I'd look at the address that it said I was at, and reference it with the number if it was visible, and from there I checked the county auditor's website going on to match it up with name, and I provided that material to the commissioner.
Okay, so you obtained the address from Google Maps.
I would know the street that I'm on. I would use the GPS to confirm, yes, this is such and such house. This is the address, and look at the picture that was there.
Okay, and then you went to the auditor's office to look up who the property was based on that address that you had.
Right.
And you took these phones from your car, or you're walking around the neighborhood, or what?
I was driving.
Okay.
I would pull over, take a picture, and move on.
Okay. I'm going to focus on one in particular. And that is I'm going to give you your complaint. Okay. It's part of your complaint that deals with, it says S. Karen Yuskirchen, 6827 Farmbrook Drive. Okay. And just for convenience, I'm just going to pull out, there's 2 pages. Let's pull those out. Commission members have that. The pages aren't numbered, but it's further in the complaint. Top left, it says, it has the name and the address.
All the complaint was circulated to all commission members that had all the attachments to it. I also have copies of the complaint here if anyone needs a paper copy.
Okay.
Okay.
Digital, but you have enough.
Can I give them the sequence?
That's right.
Yep, let's have it on here, but I'd like this.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So you told me.
Yeah.
Same thing.
And that is, Aaron.
Yuskirchen. I'm pronouncing it correctly. Or Yuskirchen?
I think it's
Yuskirchen.
what is it?
Probably Yuskirchen.
Boys can't hurt it. It's a good term.
And then it's
Right, the internet is more clear.
Okay, you ready? Yeah. Okay. So you remember this part of your complaint?
Yeah.
Correct? Okay. So, you explained a few minutes ago the process that you used to come up with to match up an owner with the address. That, okay, which was, you had the address from the Google Maps. As you were taking the photo, you also, on your GPS, got the address location, correct? Okay.
Yes,
And then you went to the auditor's office to find out who the property owner was. And based on that address that you had, what did the auditor's records indicate to you who the property owner was?
the property record, when I searched the result that came up from my GPS, it showed this Skirkin's name.
Okay. And the auditor's office also has a picture of the property, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Did you compare the photos? You know, you had a photo that you took.
Mhm.
You had the photo from Google Maps,
Yes,
and then you have an auditor's website photo.
yes.
Okay.
So I was looking at those at home and the images that you older. The quality of it was not the best, but it looked like the house that I had in the picture.
And I'm going to show you one more exhibit that I'll just mark as complainant exhibit 1. That's for you.
Okay.
Now, this is, well, you can identify, can you identify this as the Google map photo that came up?
Yes,
Okay.
this is this matches the photo I took.
Right, and this is essentially a larger version of what's in your complaint.
Yes,
Okay. And you'll notice that it up at the top, it says Google Maps and it has the address 6827 Farmbrook Drive. Did you type that address in there?
the search for the cross-reference, what I photographed, yes,
So you typed the address into Google Maps?
I did.
Okay, where did Google Maps give you that address?
At
Based on your
what point?
I'm sorry. Yeah, I should clarify. At the time that you were driving and you stopped, you took a photo, and I think you said you had GPS.
Yes.
And
my
GPS
GPS
gave
in my
you,
car, zoomed in and tapped the lot that I photographed. It showed me this picture and gave me that address. And when I went to make this picture, I typed that address in manually, and that's what it did.
okay, so you typed in the address that you got on Google at the time that you were drive or you would stop, and on your phone on Google Maps, they gave you this picture, Google Maps gave you this picture and that address.
Yes,
Okay, and then you went to Google Maps again later and you got the same thing, which is this exhibit 1.
correct.
Now, have you since become aware that this house in the photo is not Karen Kirkland's, I'm sorry, address or house, I should say.
Yes, I since learned, because of our meeting, I didn't receive any of the information, like the affidavit she submitted, confirming her address. I didn't see any of that until I believe last week when you passed along the affidavits that were submitted
By the respondents.
by the respondents. Yes.
And actually, let's go into that a little bit more. So that was the first time you became aware that there was, that photo and that address did not go together.
Correct.
And since the address that go with the photo, it also, you know, it was the right address for Ms. Euschurchen, but not her house.
That is correct.
So there were, I think, 4 responses filed, 4 affidavits, and I sent you all 4 of those affidavits, correct?
Yes.
So prior to the commission's preliminary review of this case, did anybody send you any of those responses?
No, I didn't receive them until you provided them last week.
Okay. So you didn't get them from any of those 4 people?
I
You
had
didn't
no
get,
contact with any of the respondents.
you didn't get them from a lawyer? Although you got it from me later, but
Yes.
before the commission's meeting, and the commission didn't send you those responses, right?
Correct.
So, after you found out, or after you had a chance to read, the affidavits, and learned that the photo did not go with the address, what did you do then?
Well, I actually drove by the street a second time and confirmed that I had made a mistake.
Okay, and where is, if you know, where is, 6827 Farmbrook Drive, which is Ms. Kirkins' address, where is her house in relation to the photo that you have?
It is the photo I took or
Well, either one, I mean,
it's directly across the street from the house I photographed.
so it's directly across the street on Farmbrook.
No, it is the driveway opens up on the intersecting street of the road.
But the front of her house, her being Euskirk, her house faces Farmbrook.
It does.
Okay, and it's directly across from the street of the house in your photo.
Yes.
Now, if anyone had told you or sent you copies of the responses before the preliminary review hearing, or it even told you verbally that there was potential error here, what would you have done?
I would have withdrawn it immediately.
Withdrawn the complaint?
The complaint against Karen Skirling, yes. Yeah, I have nothing to gain from reporting the wrong house.
And you don't know Ms. Euskirk?
No, I don't know any of the respondents personally.
Okay, now, have you had a chance to go back and watch the video from the preliminary review hearing
I have.
on the commission's website? Okay, and you know that, Mr. Hardman made a very big deal about you not being present at that
Yes.
preliminary review. Okay, so why did you not come to the preliminary review?
The letter I received in the mail from the commission did not explicitly state that it had to be present. The language appeared almost as if participation wasn't even a guarantee, because the line at the bottom, do I have the letter?
Yes,
It is.
I'm gonna hand you the letter. I don't have extra copies, but it's their form letter, so
I've seen it before.
we've seen the letter.
It says you're welcome to attend and observe, but it's within the discretion of the commission to allow statements or presentation of evidence at that time. So it just didn't seem like it would even be a guarantee that that I would have to a chance to say anything. Other, the other thing I considered was, without knowing the context behind the signs that I later learned, which is they were privately purchased. I assumed it was kind of a straightforward complaint in that there was signs advocating against a ballot issue, and they didn't have a disclaimer. So it was not meant to be disrespectful to this body or to the nature of my complaint.
Did you have any intention to file a, we'll call false accusation with regard to this particular house?
No, that was definitely not my intention.
And I think you said you had nothing to gain, correct? By
lying, no, that doesn't make, or not lying. By photographing the wrong house, by reporting someone who had nothing to do with it. Yeah, that was not a goal or intent.
Okay. And you testified earlier at the beginning that your belief that there was some sort of organized effort involved here, and you've stated why you believed that. Are you aware that under Ohio law, an individual acting solely on their own that puts up a sign is not required to have a disclaimer?
I wasn't aware at the time, but again, the consistency of the signs did not lead me to believe that someone was going to a print house and saying, you know what, I'd like a sign that says these, it did not seem like, it did not appear as though people coincidentally would have gone throughout our school district and independently purchased signs formatted the same way, saying the same message.
Pretty fantastic coincidence.
It would be remarkable.
Yeah, I have no further questions.
Morning, Mr. Neri.
Morning.
I'd like to start off with again how this complaint came to be. Who drafted this complaint?
The complaint was drafted.
Yes,
Uh,
strike that. Did you draft this complaint?
I wrote the complaint from a Google Doc template that I was given.
We're given a Google Doc by whom?
I asked my wife if she knew of a like a template or a location online on the commission's website, and she emailed me a file, and
So it was a template from the commission's website.
well, probably not. I've not seen any Google Docs. I'm not sure.
Or you just said you thought it was from the commission's website. So was it, or was it not from the commission's website?
I asked my wife for help finding a template or something that I could form to fill for the complaint.
Okay. And do you still have the complaint in front of you that you filed?
Mm-hmm.
So this came from a template.
It came from a Google Doc. I'm sorry for using the word template interchangeably.
Google Doc. So what was different? What was on the Google Doc that was, I'm trying to figure out, okay, let's start. The first paragraph says, please accept this complaint for your review. I'm concerned that the organized effort to campaign against the Forest Hill School District levy is not properly identifying itself. I'll slow down for you. And I would appreciate an immediate review. Thank you for your time and consideration. Was that part of the template for the Google Doc?
Yes, it was after I came home from taking the photographs. I learned someone else in the district had begun the process of filing a complaint for something different. And trying to get the timing right here for you, Kurt, to start. I believe the complaint either passed or originated from one of our friends. I think I know where you're going with this, so I'm happy to answer the questions, but to clarify, when I received the document, I modified it to suit. I eliminated the irrelevant data that wasn't relevant to the complaint I wanted to make, and filled out the names, addresses, photos for my complaint.
So I'm a little lost now. You talked about a friend. Now, did it come from a friend or did it come from a Google Doc?
Have you used Google Docs before, Mr. Hart?
Please answer the question.
I received a link to a Google Doc. Multiple people can edit and access Google Docs. Okay, that
And this the Google Doc was provided by who you characterize as friend. Who's this friend?
Leslie Rasmussen.
So did Ms. Rasmussen provide you this Google Doc?
I
as a
assume
template?
Sue, she provided it to my wife when she was looking for a form that I could fill out with the information for my complaint.
So besides your wife, who else did you talk to about whether to file a complaint?
That's it.
So this form that Ms. Rasmussen provides to you, what was was it an elections commission form?
It was I don't know if there was a specific form ID, but it had a spot for the complainant's name. It had a spot for the complaint that you wanted to make and why, and the names and addresses of the responders.
But was it the form Ms. Rasmussen provided something that had already occurred at the elections commission? Or was it unrelated to the elections commission? Just trying to figure out how you come up with this form.
I don't have the answer to that. I received a link in Google Doc and I repurposed it for this complaint.
Okay, if you can turn to the second page of the complaint. At the top where it says statement of alleged violation.
Yes.
And it has address ORC 3517.20, then a bar, political communication, semicolon, identification source. See that?
Yes.
Has that been something you added to this document?
I looked up the revised code concerning identification, the disclaimer, and thought that was the approach. I believe that the signs violated that revised code.
Okay. So you're the one who added that into
Yes.
the document. And similar at the bottom where the middle section says section of sections alleged to have been violated. Same thing.
Same thing.
You added that to the document.
Yes.
And let's talk a little bit, just a little bit about Forest Hills. How is the atmosphere in Forest Hills in terms of politics and campaigning?
It's fairly divided.
Very nasty. Accusations getting thrown left and right, police being called for various incidents, correct?
Yes.
I mean, and so, and that goes to and from on both sides. Yes,
I would mostly agree. Yeah.
and a lot of it is a form of harassment going on in the Forest Hills School District, correct?
Checked for the record. I mean, I think that if by harassment, if he's referring to some sort of legal definition of harassment, then
I'm just using the everyday common dictionary definition of harassment. People are being harassed
Go
for
ahead.
their political views in Forest Hills, correct?
Their views are certainly being challenged.
Are you familiar with the Facebook group called East Side?
I am familiar
You're
with.
a member of that group, correct?
I am,
Somewhat vitriolic
certainly can be, yes.
towards people they disagree with politically, correct?
There are multiple groups from multiple political spectrums that embody what you just
I just
said.
asked, the B side group you belong to is very vitriolic with those with whom they disagree politically, correct?
Not always, but it can be, yeah.
If I understood you correct, I might ask this. You only talked to your wife before filing this complaint.
Yes,
And you said you knew about the disclaimer law because your wife had run previously for school board
yes,
2 years ago, if I'm not mistaken, correct?
correct.
And that also was somewhat of a contentious campaign. The vitriolic, the political disputes, nothing, it's not a new phenomenon in the Forest Hill School District, correct?
No,
So it did occur during your wife's campaign as well, correct?
it occurred, it had been occurring before 2021, for sure.
You said you knew about the disclaimer law because of that. So when you did, do you have campaign signs?
We did. We did,
Yeah, it did pass fence. You put disclaimers on it. How large were the disclaimers on your signs for your wife's campaign?
There was no regulation concerning the minimum size. Most, we frankly followed suit with most of them that just have it in the bottom corner.
Very small. Because that's not the message you want to get out to people. You want to get your candidate's name and possibly the office they're running for, correct?
Correct.
So very small font.
Yes.
So you would be aware, appreciative that whether a sign has a disclaimer on it is really difficult to see from the road if it's up in somebody's yard, correct?
It depends. Depends on the sign. It depends on the colors and how well the text contrasts. I mean, it's getting into semantics.
Did you with these signs that you alleged did not have a disclaimer, did you personally inspect the signs?
I did.
You got out of your car.
Yes. Each and every one that I photographed.
Yes.
I did not get out of my car. I inspected signs at a nearby polling location that matched it. And concluded that the boat nose that I saw up close matched the boat nose that I saw in people's yards. It was a reasonable conclusion to make.
Okay. Yeah, I want to kind of go through these addresses that you put in your complaint. What area in the Forest Hill School District are these signs located?
They're near the Maddox Elementary School.
In a rather large subdivision.
Yes,
Basically comes off Salem Road or Burn, correct?
or Mark, I mean, there's multiple, yes.
But the main thoroughfares are Salem and Burn.
Yes,
And so is that where High Meadows Drive is located?
I'm not certain, it's gotta be close. I don't have these addresses memorized, Mr. Hartman, so you'll forgive me. Let me look through this here. You have a photo of it?
Got the, I can get you the. Here's the actual complaints. Oh.
Yeah, that's a longer route, to Maddox Elementary from my house.
Okay, the next two, number 3 and 4 is Rose Tree Lane. Where are those?
I believe these are also, within the subdivision for the elementary school.
Okay, so again, this is in that subdivision off what we said Salem and Bernie Road, that in Anderson Township, correct?
Yes.
Okay, and finally, number 7, Joetta's Drive. Where's Joetta Drive? I'm looking for that also in that subdivision back towards the Maddox School.
If it isn't, it's on the way to one of my kids' friends' houses. I believe this is also within the subdivision.
Joetta Drive is dead end.
What-
Joetta Drive is a dead end street. Know that?
I'll take your word for it.
And it's very short street. So which friend's house lives on Joetta Drive?
That's off of Salem, right?
It's in, I believe it, and we have testimony later, it's in that subdivision off of Salem and cornered by Salem and Bernie, but the large subdivision. Yes. So whose friend's house? It's dead end road, Joetta Drive. Are we going to?
You're asking for my daughter's friend's
Yes,
name?
last name's fine.
It's not, well, last names are what I'm not good at.
How about just first name?
First, I think, what's friend? How do you know this friend? What's what?
It's a daughter's friend from Cheer.
But you don't know her name, don't know. And then Salem Road, number, what was it? 6 and 8, that's one of the main roads in this area, correct?
They look, yes.
Right. Okay. So we've got 7 out of these 8 are in this nice little subdivision area by Maddox Elementary. Number 5, Farmbrook Drive, where's that located?
That is due south of Salem.
It's not part of that subdivision by Maddox School.
It is not.
It's not on your way driving your kids to or from school.
There is
Correct.
it's correct.
Out of all these 8, 7 of them are in the same general subdivision, general area, Salem Road or the subdivision by it. Yet the one, Miss Ice Kirkins, is totally off the beaten track. Why did you choose this address out of all the other signs that were not in this, that might have been in the subdivision, that may have been elsewhere? You specifically went to her house to take this photograph, didn't you?
Did not specifically try to go to Miss Kirkland's house.
So how did you end up in this
I
area?
can cut through there on my way to Coldstream to see my kids' grandparents, see my parents.
So you just don't drive up and down Hopper Road, which is the main road in that
I
area?
have, but when we, before we moved here, we did house hunting down Farmbrook, and then there's another road that's across the street, offset from Farmbrook by Bernie.
This property, Miss Ice Kirkins' property, it's not on a main road, correct?
It's not.
It's in the relatively old subdivision, probably 1950s, 1960s subdivision, correct?
Correct.
Kind of a little bit larger lots than modern subdivisions, but You have to drive in, take a left, then take another left and keep driving up and down some hills, get to her house, correct?
Yes,
Just happened to be driving by this one location and not at her house, but at a different house in the subdivision, you take that picture. That you ascribed to her property.
I went down that road because I saw other political signs near the entrance of the road and thought if there's an additional violation, excuse me, let me rephrase that. There were campaign signs along the entrance to Farmbrook from Bernie that candidates and causes that folks who had the vote no levy signs also had in their yard, and I thought I'd take one pass. Everything okay?
Okay, keep going. Okay, are you done?
No, I just didn't want you to.
I can do two things at once.
Okay.
Okay. So other candidates, what candidates were on the ballot? And this was occurring in the
No.
primary in 2023.
No, there were no other candidates.
So when you just testified, you saw candidate sign, that was false testimony.
It's a campaign signs.
He said candidate sign.
I'm mistaken. That is a mistake on my part. I'll retract that.
Okay, so you saw campaign sign
I've seen.
for the levy? Out on Bernie Road that enticed you into this subdivision to go look out and try to find another sign?
I wanted to build a compelling case for the volume of the signs that at the time I believed were in violation without driving literally all over the Forest Hills district.
And so you enticed yourself into this one subdivision to go find this one sign that wasn't even on Miss Ice Curtain's property, correct?
I drove down, took the picture.
I mean, but let's ask you this. You talked about Salem Road. Salem Road is one of the major roads in Anderson Township, right?
Yes.
Were there no other signs on Salem Road that you could have taken a picture of to show the breadth of all these signs not out there?
The pictures I took, Mr. Hurd.
Were there other signs on Salem Road that we simply could have driven down, continued driving down Salem Road, one of the major roads in the township? Or there were absolutely no other signs and you had to go up driving left and right, up and down hills to get to Farmbrook Drive to take this one photograph?
Mr. Hartman, by your own admission, Salem Road's a busy road. It's not a good place to stop and take pictures if there's traffic.
But you did take pictures on number 6 and 8, right? Nothing stopped you from taking those pictures.
There was not a lot of traffic.
Salem Road is a wide road and you can actually pull over to the side and the traffic can still get through, correct?
In some spots, yes.
You know a Bonnie Dunkel?
Yes.
You know where she lives?
Not exactly.
Have you ever visited her house?
I have not.
Ever talked to her?
I have. She helped my wife with her campaign.
She's kind of involved with your people, if I would characterize it.
People.
If I could characterize, those who are advocating your positions and your viewpoints politically.
Yeah.
And for a school district, correct?
Yes.
And part of the contentious group against those with whom they disagree, correct?
There are multiple groups, but yes.
Do you ever have a conversation with Ms. Dunkelman about going after this property?
No.
You know, Ms. Dunkelman lived in this subdivision.
I'm aware. I don't know the road. I don't. The only reason I know she lives in that subdivision is because she had a Biden sign that butts up against Bernie that kept getting taken down or run over or something, and it just seemed. But that's, the location she had that sign was pretty far from the residential house, like you can't see from Bernie what road.
So Miss Dunklin didn't encourage you to come into her subdivision
I
and go
didn't,
after this.
I didn't talk to her.
Do you know the picture you took actually on Farmbrook Drive?
Say that again.
The picture you took on Farmbrook Drive that you said, that's Miss Ice Curtin's property. She's got to sign it without a disclaimer. You know who's the pictures at the house that actually had the sign? You know whose house that is?
I don't.
Never had a conversation with any, do you ever find out whose house that is?
No. It didn't seem like when the commission made the ruling that the signs were not in violation, it didn't seem like something that I needed to know, right? What am I gonna do with that information?
But you drove back out to that site and location, correct?
To confirm that, yeah, I made a mistake identifying Ms. Skirkin's house.
And do you know that the house of which you took the photograph, that is the house that had the sign, has its address number on its mailbox?
Yeah. Yeah, I saw that
That address is not 6827 Farmbrook Drive where Miss Ice Curtin lives, correct?
correct.
And when you took the photograph, you could have simply made a note and said, hey, that's the address, I got it. And gone on to your next. It's gotta go well, correct? Correct.
Yes,
Now, did you do all all these signs in the, what I would call the Maddox School subdivision? Did you do them all on one drive or was there a series of drives that you kept driving?
no, this is just one go.
Did you do all those before or after you went and took a picture of the cross from Miss Ice Curtin's place?
I did Miss Ice Curtains. Trying to remember the order of things. I believe I took a picture of Miss Ice Curtains before I took the photographs on Salem.
Okay, I want to get into how the process you engaged in wasn't quite clear. You're driving around, got your phone in your hand, call the camera up. There's a sign, got one, take a picture. Where does that give you the address?
The Google Maps driven GPS or car or phone. Pull up your specific address or I'm sorry, your specific location and tap on the lot. It'll give you, it'll act like it's giving you directions, but
So the picture you take doesn't give you the address.
no.
So you took a picture of this house with the sign. Fine, that doesn't tell you the address.
No.
Are you saying then you took a second step, called up Google Maps to say, hey, where am I?
It's my GPS on my car is always active.
Oh, so it's on the dashboard of one of those GPSs?
Yes,
Okay,
paired with. my phone.
okay. So you took the sign of the property across from Miss Ice Curtin, you have your photograph, you look at your screen. Did you make a note? Did you take a picture of that screen? How did you tie that picture to this address?
I had a temporary folder that I was taking the photos, saving the photos to, and saving the picture from the GPS to go in
So you took a picture of the house and a picture of your GPS.
and cross-reference them with the county auditor site.
So you took a picture of the house and then took a picture of the GPS.
Yes,
And you've since destroyed all those pictures because you said they were temporary.
yeah, I have, yeah,
Now. You understand and appreciate that when I'm driving down a road and there's two houses on both sides. There's two different addresses. Usually one side's even and one side's an odd side. Correct?
Correct, sorry.
And so the fact that you're getting one address, how did you know? Why did you assume when I see this on the GPS, it's giving me this 6827 Farmville Drive on my GPS? Why are you assuming it's the house on the left and not the house on the right?
Why am I assuming that the address was what it said?
That address, you're driving, I took the picture, got another sign, look at my GPS, it says 6827. How did you know, why did you assume that meant that 6827 was the house on the left side of your car versus the house on the right side of your car?
I was honestly focused on,
Getting somebody with a sign.
I was gonna say documenting the signs, but sure. And thought the matching up of photos from what I took that day and the county auditor's page would be
Yeah.
a pretty good a check.
So you're gonna go to the auditor's side to make sure, hey, this is their property. Auditor's website gives you a picture of the house, correct?
Sometimes, but yes,
Did it in this
it
instance?
did in this instance.
And did you compare the photograph that you took? Got them with the information on the auditor's website?
I did. It was not a perfect match, but it was also an older photograph. And I was at my house, right in front of the lot. The exterior shape of both homes was similar enough. I made a reasonable assumption that
Well, let's look at the exterior of the homes. I'm referring to, it's in the record, the affidavit of Karen Eiskirk in paragraphs 5 and 6. I don't know if the commission has that from the last hearing. Someone got. Looking at these two photographs, these are photographs taken from the auditor's website. Okay, do you see them there?
yes,
You're saying picture from the auditor's website at the top, which is the picture of Miss Eiskirk's property, is similar to the property below it, which is the property across the street, which is the property that actually had the sign in it.
it had the structures, but it's
Okay, how many chimneys can you see in Miss Eiskirk's property?
I see it's like 3.
How many chimneys do you see in the property that actually had the sign in it?
It looks like some tree obscuring.
How many chimneys do you see in the picture that actually had a property that had the sign in it?
I don't see.
You don't see anything, Steve.
I asked Mr. Harden to stand in front.
I'm trying to look at the pics. I'm trying not to, that's my gist. I'm not trying to.
I don't want the witness to have to turning the.
Okay. And the trees, there's in the picture below, 2 trees. Kind of, they look either probably maple type trees spread apart.
Mr. Hardman, I mean, honestly, if you could, it would be.
Okay, I was trying to look at the picture and stuff because
You wanting a copy of your clients?
of the affidavit, yes.
Here.
Thank you, I've got it now.
Okay, I've got it, so I had access. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, thank you. I
I
apologize.
didn't mean to throw that in.
So Miss Eiskirk, let's go look at the trees. Miss Eiskirk has 2, they look like cedar pines up close to the house, particularly very close to the house. You see that?
I do.
Anything similar in the property across the street where the sign actually was located?
No,
Yeah, you testified. Let's back up. This complaint that you filed under oath. Yes, under penalty of perjury. And you attested under oath to this commission that the auditor's website picture below that actually had the sign was the same house as Miss Eiskirk's. Those chimneys, trees are different, roof lines are different. Yet you testified under oath. Accuse somebody who had no political involvement whatsoever.
as I see it.
Objection. There's no, Mr. Hartman can't be testifying. I'm not sure.
Just ask your question differently.
Okay. You testified under oath, under penalty of perjury, invoked the jurisdiction of this commission against the person who did not have a sign there, correct?
That's correct.
You did it, saying, I compared the picture I took with the auditor's website, correct?
Right.
You agree that the roof lines are different between the two houses, correct?
Yes.
The trees in the yard are different between the two houses?
The trees are different. The roof lines were similar.
Commission can look at the roof lines and make that judgment for themselves. Do you think the roof lines are the same?
I did not say the same, so they look similar.
Okay. Let's look at the look at the entrance door on the house that actually had the sign in the yard. Kind of an onco in the center of the house. You see that?
I see that.
It's not on Ms. Icebergen's house, correct?
It is, it's not, but it does have a central entrance.
It's got a tree in the center. Which would be exactly where that opening enclave area is, correct?
Correct. I testified that it was.
On my page. So we'll get it straightened out. You were saying, I'm sorry.
Would, saying I testified that, you know, after your review and looking, yeah, I did make a mistake. And I would have immediately withdrawn it if I'd been notified before the commission met. So what else you'd like me to say?
Well, you recognize saying something is true under oath is a serious matter. Do you understand that?
I do.
Especially when you falsely accuse somebody under oath. Do you appreciate that's a serious matter?
Argument.
So asking something that he consider a serious matter.
Overruled, proceed.
You can,
If I'd had the intent to deceive this body. Yeah, falsely accusing someone is very serious.
you had the intent to go after people who had a different political view than you on the school levy issue, correct?
Correct.
That was your intent to go after those people. Want to hand you this, see if I got copies. I don't want to.
Mr. Hartman, his intent was to hold hold them to account the same standards that everyone else.
Your intent was to harass people
No,
who disagree
sir.
with people like you,
No,
people
sir.
on the east side, people like Miss Rasmussen, people who conflict like your wife, that who disagree with them, you want to go after them.
I'm capable of disagreeing with people and having polite conversation.
I'm going to hand you the complaint that was filed and proceed before this commission in case 2023-D005. I got one, I got Chris, I got one copy here. And that's the original one after the commission's to look at. Okay. Have you seen this complaint before?
I have not seen. Seen it as a sign with the attachments.
I would represent to you, this was a complaint filed by Leslie Rasmussen
Yes.
against two individuals claiming they didn't put a disclaimer on their signs. Let's compare opening paragraphs. Please accept this complaint below for your review. You say that verbatim. Ms. Rasmussen, her complaint said that. I am concerned that the organized efforts to campaign against the FHSE levy is not properly identifying itself. You say that in your complaint. Ms. Rasmussen says it in her complaint verbatim, correct?
Correct.
So you and Ms. Rasmussen are all just unilaterally, out of the blue, both concerned about the quote unquote organized effort.
No, I,
Objection, that was the witness testimony.
I'm sorry, what?
Madam Chair, I'm confused.
He has what?
Those are two different things.
Two different things. I'm looking at I'm comparing his complaint with the Rasmussen complaint in the 05 case. I already have one.
I understand that we received the same complaints, so
Yeah.
that's why I'm.
That's what I was.
I already had one, Chris already made one extra comment for me, so it's circulating to the motion.
Yeah.
I received the Google Doc that had, I mean, I'm going off of memory, but it had at least a lot of the text that I saw. I deleted the stuff that didn't apply to me. I did notice that, the opening paragraph was in line with what I wanted to report.
Okay, let's go down on your complaint, page 2. We talked earlier before, statement of alleged violation addressing ORC 351720, et cetera. Do you see
Yeah.
that? You testified earlier that you're the one who entered that, who typed that in.
Yes. As I.
Let's look at Miss Rasmussen's complaint. Well, lo and behold, he's got the same verbatim thing on her complaint.
As I responded to your earlier question, Mr. Hartman, I deleted the information from hers that I didn't think was relevant.
Now, Mr. Berneri, you testified earlier that you typed that information into that.
I deleted, will you let me finish, please? I deleted the statement of the alleged violation. I deleted the language. I deleted most of the language here, and then I deleted the sections in violation. After that, I found out that she apparently had reported the same thing that I was when I copied from the ORC, because if you copy, if you highlight the section 351720 from the ORC online, it'll put that line in the middle. It'll put the format just the same.
What puts that line in the middle? When you do what? I'm looking at that, you're talking about that line, that kind of a straight line, with a weird way to type.
If you want to register an objection on this line of questioning, at this point, I've been trying to figure out what the relevance is to the issue of whether or not Mr. Granieri acted frivolously on his complaint with regard to the mistaken address.
Ms. McTiger, when I open up the door,
I'm not sure where he's going, how it's relevant to the issue that we're here on.
Mr. McTiger, open the door. You didn't do this for any improper purpose or to harass. His question. You have almost a nearly verbatim complaint. He said, I got a template off Google Docs, then from Miss Rasmussen. And he just testified now, he didn't discover until afterwards that Miss Rasmussen had filed a complaint. He's all over the board. That's the genesis. I'm trying to explain.
I'm going to sustain the objection. I think you've made your point.
Well, but
As it relates to that, between the question that's already occurred and your argument.
okay, but I want to clarify. I'd like to clarify. He said something. I just want to get clarified for that. He said, I deleted it and then I retyped it, including that bar where it says addressing 517.1. That's all I want to clarify.
Or we have to edit it. I mean,
Well,
If you highlight the text.
I know how to use forms.
I'm sorry.
Mr. Yeah.
I'm sorry.
You haven't been asked a question.
but
I guess, to the executive point, getting into the granularity of what he deleted and how he deleted it has been established. He got.
I'll move on.
Somebody else and he used it. I guess I don't understand why we need to go into excruciating detail of every deletion and every line on the template. He had a template, get it.
with all due respect, he
Yeah.
testified earlier that he typed that information. When I first went over the complaint, now it appears no, he just simply had what Miss Rasmussen did. And that's what I'm trying to clarify. I mean,
It's no different than what he
That's
did.
not what I said, Mr. Hartman.
How you use the template.
who is Gary Yuratovic?
He's a neighbor.
And so he's the one who verified as the notary. Can you look at Miss Rasmussen's complaint? Who verified hers?
assume you're gonna draw a line, it's,
He did both. He verified, he was the notary for both yours and Ms. Rasmussen's.
yes. Yes.
Would you agree with me that when you tendered this complaint under oath, accusing Ms. Iskirchen of violating the law, that there was no evidentiary support for the accusation against Ms. Iskirchen?
Can you repeat that, please?
When you filed this complaint under oath, accusing Ms. Iskirchen of violating the law, would you agree that there was no evidentiary support to support the allegation against Ms. Iskirchen?
No object. That's, I think, asking for essentially a legal conclusion on the standards of thing, of whether something's frivolous, and it's also not consistent with what he's already testified to.
I'm asking if there was evidence or not to support his allegation against Ms. Iskirchen.
That I'm going to sustain his objection.
Okay. What evidentiary support did you have when you filed this complaint under oath of the allegation against Ms. Iskirchen for violating the law?
And what I believed in what my GPS had shown was I was matching the address that in front of me and the sign in the yard that did not appear to have any disclaimer.
And that the county auditor's website supported that. You had the right house, you had the right person.
Object. He's already answered that several times.
I have not asked that question.
Go ahead, answer.
I've already testified that I acknowledged that I made a mistake there
Under oath,
under oath.
under penalty of perjury. Yes.
Yes.
I have no further questions. Thank you.
Really, only have a couple questions, in terms of, we've learned about where most of the streets are, and I think in the immediate area. And you said something about Farm Brook is a street that you use as a cut through. Did I get that right?
It's, these subdivisions, there's multiple ways you can drive through to get done from the main roads. It's not something, excuse me, it's not something regularly used, but I don't know how many of you on the commission have kids. I used to drive up and down lots of subdivisions trying to get a crying kid to settle in the car seat. So.
And you were asked a question about the address being on a mailbox. But you had already driven, you were, when you took the photo of the house, I noticed, I'll show you exhibit 1 here. And Well, actually, it might be better to look at the actual complaint. This exhibit 1 doesn't have the yard sign in it. So just, looking at the complaint, well, for that matter, let's just look at, the response by Ms. Uskirk, because it's right there. Your photo is on the first page here. That's your photo from your
Yes,
correct?
yes.
And the yard sign is way over near, it looks like it's almost to the road, way over to the right of the property.
Yeah,
correct?
it looked like it was at the edge.
Okay, and that's your car. Well, in fact, that appears to be your arm in the window.
Yeah, I was,
And so, when you took that photo and you checked the location on Google Maps, right, it was actually up already, right? On your GPS.
the map was up. I had to tap I had to navigate through a screen to get to the street view.
Okay, and you were well past where, or, well, I shouldn't presume things, where was the post,
The mailbox. The mailbox is on the far left of the property.
So you were well past the mailbox,
I was,
and you took the photo, and you tapped your screen on the GPS for the location. Is that what you're saying?
yes,
Okay, and you got a picture of the house,
yes,
okay, for that, and with this address, to C1,
yes,
and, okay. So you assumed at that point that that was the address
I did.
for that house appearing in that photo?
Yeah.
Okay, which was the same house you took a picture of?
Yes.
Okay. No other questions?
One quick follow-up. You assume it was the same house with that address.
I made a reasonable assumption that
But if you had looked and compared at and took time to look at the county auditor's website, you'd have seen it was not the right house that you identified. And in fact,
when
it was that house directly across the street.
looking at the affidavit, if someone had given that to me before the meeting, I would have.
That's not the question. The question is, you looked at the auditor's website with some care, looked at the pictures, you would have seen that. I had the wrong address. It's the address across the street. That's when you drive down the road. There's houses on both sides.
You, on the auditor's website, you either enter a range or a specific address. It's not, they don't just list all the lots for you to click through. So I entered the address that I had noted from the screenshot.
And the pictures did not match, correct?
Pictures did not match.
Thank you, nothing further.
But you believe that the picture was similar?
I believe that they were similar.
Further questions?
Thank you. Okay, so questions from commissioners?
Prior to receiving the response on this complaint, did you know Ms. Kirkin or anyone in the family?
Yeah.
Have you ever met her or any of her family?
Yeah.
May I ask a question of council? Did, to your knowledge, Mr. Hartman, did the actual address of Mr. Kirkin had any signs regarding school levy?
No, and I have testimony. She's apolitical.
She did.
No, apolitical constantly, not just in this instance, always.
And I understand you may not, be able to answer on her behalf, but is there any previous relationship, any reason whatsoever that Mr. Granieri should have a reason to injure or harm her, or some sort of negative relationship that would have him go after her specifically?
No, the issue is, your question, actually, I'm going to try to one follow-up. If I may, let me get one follow-up question, then I might be able to answer your question.
Fair enough.
This is.
Okay.
Yep, this is just.
Okay.
I apologize.
Okay, I can explain.
Yeah, yes.
What's that?
Once you all have.
The commission opened it up with a question. If he asked the question of the witness, I think in fairness and due process, we need to be able to follow up to a question.
No,
It's always the parties have the last questions.
that's not the way we have it in our laws, our bylaws.
Due process be damned with this commission. I understand.
Go ahead.
Go ahead, Mr. Hartman.
One
We-
question.
Yeah, and we,
Well, I'm-
in our bylaws, so we're just trying to follow our bylaws because we are not a judicial body. We have bylaws that we would like to follow the process of, and we would like you to respect that. So please don't be disrespectful, say due process be damned. We're giving you latitude, please respect that.
Well, I would like this commission. Commission has a history of not respecting the Constitution.
Sir,
It is.
sir.
It had to go all the way to the United States Supreme Court on at least 2 occasions to put this
Please,
commission
please
right on the
ask your question,
Constitution.
Mr. Hartman.
Do you know a family named Daly?
I've heard of them. I don't know them personally.
You know, the Lisa Daly.
Objection, that was one question.
I told you it was not going to be one question.
Oh, what? Okay, but the question was concerning Ms.
I'll get, you know what, I'll subject to recall. I'll get it in through my witness.
How do you pronounce your last name?
Renee,
Grenier, Mr. Ferrer, thank you for being here today. Couple of observations. It seems that you spend you're a well-informed citizen in your community, and it also seems to me that you took a respectable amount of time in drafting your complaint with the photos and the text. What steps did you take to verify every claim in your complaint was accurate?
as I testified, driving, stopped the car for to photograph the lot, make sure that the house and the sign were both visible. Also taking the coordinate from my car's GPS and taking that information house to house to house. I went home, excuse me, and went to the county auditor website, enter in the specific addresses that I documented from a timeout with the photos, screenshots from Google Maps and my phone's GPS.
Have you taken any steps to, obviously, one of my concerns is Ms. Iskirchen, has responded to this commission off of your complaint that, part of it at least wasn't accurate. At any point, have you considered apologizing to Ms. Iskirchen for this, for her having to go through the process of retaining counsel?
That's something I was gonna ask Mr. McLeod about after this commission meeting, but I mean, I don't think I've testified in a way that says I'm unapologetic or with regret for making the mistake. And I'd like to think I've been very upfront about that.
Yes, and follow up to Commissioner Caraway's question. Or comments. So I'm familiar with Google, Google Maps, you go to whatever. I guess I'm most concerned that they don't look similar. I disagree with that. I don't think the houses from picture to picture similar. So I think that's concerning to me. And I'm wondering, I guess, here's my question too. Because if I'm going to take the time to tell you that these people did something that I think is wrong and needs to be addressed. Do you have the green fire signs that people that are put in properties so that if you call in a fire, call 911, say my house is on fire, I'm at, 6827 Farmbrook Drive. Do you have those green signs that are in front so that the fire department knows where to go? Like where I live, they're everywhere. So I'm just asking.
No, I've never heard of
I'm in a rural area, so I don't.
It's marking the entrances.
Sometimes they're spray painted on the curb.
I've seen some curbs get,
I know what you're talking about. Like the narrow green sign,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
yeah, just with the numbers vertically.
I know what you're talking about.
yeah, I have seen those before, those. I've seen these, to my knowledge, in.
They're everywhere, like in towns.
You gotta buy them. The homeowner has to buy them, usually from the fire department.
Some municipalities give them for free to them, yeah.
Yeah, we have it in front of our house. So I'm asked, so that's a good answer to that. Do what?
That's what my better on my belief.
Maybe I live in a little area, so we have to denote where we live because
One to
we
get-
don't have, like, sometimes we don't have mailboxes out there. So which leads up to my next question is, did you ever think about making sure to cross-reference like the mailbox number with the Google address you're given? Knowing how Google is, if you just turn one way or the other,
It
you
can,
might be in front of another person's house, but yet it tells you this is where you are.
I don't want to say hindsight, it's 2020, but at the same time, it's 2020. And there was a mailbox that was unmarked across. But again, their lot, the house I photographed, their lot. I'd driven past it, but it has a very clearly identified marked mailbox right along the driveway. It would. I'm not gonna make excuses for that oversight, but
So the address that you were given on your GPS did not match with the mailbox number,
I didn't look at the mailbox for this one instance.
but you did in the others.
They were right in front of the house, clearly marked, so.
So just in terms of the GPS, so there were 9 addresses. Did you use your GPS on all 9 of those locations that are in your complaint? And was the only one that came back inaccurate was Miss Curtin's? Okay.
Yes,
Yeah, he was nodding his head. On
Sorry.
the record.
sorry,
Thank you.
Madam Chair, just a follow-up, I guess I'm going back to some of the questioning from one of the attorneys, the respondent's attorney, with respect to why you drove down certain areas of your township, taking
report like the others. It was a very thorough oversight. In I'm not sure why. I can understand how that would appear, and I was not trying to file a report to deceive or misrepresent.
Please speak up.
Sorry. So it was, yes, another facet of the mistake I made here.
Fair enough. But I'm not trying to give you the answer. I'm just trying to put up my arms around this.
I understand.
There clearly was no mailbox address at the end of this property. Right?
There was not one at the far end.
So were the other properties, was the actual address like there at the end? Was it easier to see? I mean,
some of them had numbers on the house, some of them had them over the garage, some of them had them spray painted on the concrete berm.
hold on. All right, thank you.
Any other questions?
No,
I do, yeah, if I may. Briefly.
I assume that this will be limited to the question that was just asked.
Well, there were a series of questions, but
No, the executive director said we allow that latitude, so, okay,
I guess.
Just based on what was asked by the commission.
yes.
Right. I think this kind of falls in. So you just used the Google Maps for the address on this one case, correct? I understand.
The Google Maps, yeah,
Do you know what Google Streetscape is?
that's different from Google Street View.
Street View, yes. You know what Street View is?
I believe that's where a couple of the pictures are from.
So some of the big, so Street View, you can actually physically move down the street. Correct? Past the driveway, past the mailbox, as you're going down the street, just from the comfort of your own computer. Correct. You need to speak up so we can.
Correct. So
But you need not use Streets View to go down Farmbrook Drive to just say, hey, here's the house that you know, that's in the comfort of my home. Go down on Street View to the mailbox, the house that actually had the sign. You did not do that, correct?
no, I entered the address and the photo of the house I photographed came up.
No more. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Question before us. Are you both comfortable and
I'm not within, yes.
Yes,
you may please?
Did you have any other case to put on, Mr. Mutai?
no, that's.
Yeah.
No further witnesses.
I do, sir. I would call as a witness Andrew Pappas.
Am I allowed?
I think.
Do you swear from the truth, the whole truth, and the truth, what we got?
I do.
Will you please state your name and your address, please?
Andrew S. Pappas, address is 767 Dunwoody Drive, Cincinnati, Ohio, 45230.
And that is in Anderson Township in the Forest Hill School District. correct?
Yes,
Can you tell me or tell the commission, generally, where do you live vis-a-vis where Miss Ice Kirkin lives?
5 houses away. Our driveways are on the same street, Whippoorwill Drive. Our addresses are on different streets. I live approximately 4 or 5 houses away.
She is a neighbor.
Yes,
Do you know her personally?
yes, I do.
Can you give kind of a history of your neighbor relations with Miss Ice Kirkin?
Miss Ice Kirkin is a single female who moved back to the neighborhood after her mother passed away. She took over her mother's house. She's a very private woman, doesn't
doesn't really go out much. And we became friends through our dogs. When we would walk dogs, our dogs would play together, and we'd sit with Karen often and just, give her some companionship.
Can you explain what type of so you've known for how long approximately?
I would say Karen, she probably lived in the neighborhood, time goes by so fast, 15, 20 years.
Okay.
Sorry.
And can you guys explain what her political involvement advocacy is in the community?
And the community is not, Karen is apolitical, would be putting it mildly.
It kind of avoids politics?
She avoids a lot. She avoids not only politics, she avoids, she's a bit, not in a derogatory sense, but Karen is a very private person, and she respects her privacy and doesn't venture out too terribly much from what I can discern.
Would you consider you guys are good friends, maybe not
Yes.
close friends, but
Not close friends.
and for many years.
Yes,
Now, you served as a township trustee in Anderson Township,
I
correct?
did.
And you ran for office
Yes,
twice, if I'm not mistaken.
yes,
Running for public office, you have a good friend in your neighborhood.
yes.
What was Karen's involvement in your campaign as it, considering you guys were friends?
None that I can recall. I don't remember if she might have made a donation, but Karen is, as I said, a very apolitical person, usually does not put up yard signs.
They even put a sign in for you.
From memory, I'm not gonna be,
Absolutely.
that's a long time ago, so I don't remember if she did or did not.
But you have no recollection of her actually putting a sign.
I do not have recollection of her putting a sign up in her.
And have you had a chance to kind of interact with Karen since this complaint was filed against her?
Coming up here today and texting just a moment ago was my last interaction. So yes, I have interaction.
And before that, you can kind of assess what effect being accused of violating the law has had on
Which is what,
Objection. I think this is getting now into hearsay at this point.
it, for personal observations. He's
Oh,
and
well,
not for
A text is hearsay.
text women.
I spoke to her on the phone for an hour coming up
Speaking
here
of
today.
vote is hearsay.
No, and a hearsay is an out of court assertion of fact.
She's watching right now.
Admitted for the truth of the matter. He's personally observed, he's personally talked. It's not like somebody told me she was this. That would be hearsay.
I'm gonna overrule and we'll give you a little bit of leeway, but let's get.
I'm trying to move it, just kind of the assessment that this private person, apolitical, that being falsely accused of violating the law has had. And he's observed it through his conversations with her. So can you just kind of give an overview, kind of describe really
I'm gonna use her
your
words.
observation?
I'm not gonna use my words. I'm gonna use her words.
To you.
To me today, she used the word, she was dismayed initially. She was saddened. It caused her angst, caused her very specific word that she used and looked up was consternation. I don't know the definition of that, so you'll have to look it up for me. I know generally what it means. I don't know the dictionary definition, but Karen, getting a letter from this board, an official letter from the state agency, caused her a lot of dismay. And she was she's just such a private person. She was very, very concerned, and it caused her angst and worry.
Just want to get a few more things about the properties. Ms. Heiskirk, does her mailbox have her address on it, or does she avoid having her number on the mailbox?
She has a big green mailbox on the corner. I do not believe her address is listed, and I do not believe her name is listed on the address, on the mailbox.
Property across the street where the sign was okay, you're familiar with that property?
Yes,
Do you know who lives at that property?
I do.
Who lives there?
A gentleman by the name of Joe Daly and his wife Phyllis Daly.
Okay. Let's talk first about the property. Their mailbox that having numbers on the mailbox.
Does clearly.
And Mr. Daly, him or his family involved politically?
Joe Daly was the precinct executive for a number of years in Anderson Township, Precinct J, where his house is located.
And his daughter?
Daughter is currently the ward chair of the Anderson Township Republican Party.
And Miss Daly, the daughter's very outspoken and
She's very involved in politics and the community, yes.
including the ongoing battles that are occurring in Forestville School District. Is that fair to say?
Yes, that's fair to say.
Nothing further. Thank you. No questions.
Any from-
Nothing further. No, you can step down. Oops, I'm sorry. I'll let you run the meeting. I try to get you out of there.
I'm happy to answer any questions.
Any commissioners have questions?
Did you have an ambulance when you ran for public office?
I'm sorry I sold it. Yeah.
Okay. Please remember.
Yes, I'm very famous
It's been a
for
long
that.
time
Yes.
ago.
Made in the New York Times, thank you.
Okay. Oh, did it?
It did.
Very good, Steve.
That's the question.
Wait, there may be moments.
Sorry.
I have a
More relevant question.
follow up. No.
I think that there are no questions from commissioners. You may step down.
Thank you. I have to go pay my parking ticket.
We can't help you.
No, I'm sorry.
Thank you, Andrew.
You can leave if you want. That's the end, Mr.
That is correct.
Please. Summations, I've been closing per se, but summations.
Very, very brief.
Brief summations.
I would hope this commission is shocked, dismayed, furious that somebody who is apolitical, who has no involvement politically, is pulled before it to account to the government based solely upon a false affidavit. And for this commission to do nothing under those circumstances would be shocking. Make false accusations, engage in political witch hunt, falsely accuse people, and there's no accountability. None. What message will that send? What will prevent? It will prevent nothing like this going forward. Oh, I didn't mean to. I tried. I just made a simple mistake. It was not a simple mistake. Question was asked, is it relevant that this sign is located different than all these other signs? On the merits, no. On whether there would be a violation or not, no, it doesn't matter. But does it matter here? Yes, it does. It matters because, okay, everyone but this one was clustered in a subdivision. We talk about the Magic School subdivision. They were clustered. And going to and from school, he was able to pick them up there. This one, you almost literally had to drive out of your way to go take the photograph. There were other signs. There were major roads with the signs that you could pull over. It wasn't the safety issue. He took signs on Salem Road. Oh, it's safety. No, he took them. He acknowledged you. It's a wide road. It is a very wide road. You can pull over to the side and traffic still gets through. He had to go hunting out this one sign. And the sign he took was a former precinct exec committee, central committeeman whose daughter with the same last name is very outspoken politically. They were going after this person. He made the mistake of getting the wrong address. That's what they were doing. They were going after people. So when you question, oh, did you do this for an improper purpose? Yeah, it was being done to harass. The law was not violated. There was no violation. You know, you look at, again, we talk reference 23-23-51, frivolous conduct statute that this commission is used as a basis for sanctions. Frivolous conduct says it merely serves to harass or maliciously injure another person. Merely to harass or maliciously injure. I would submit to you, submitting a false affidavit accusing Ms. Heiskirchen of violating the law, of being summoned to the government to account, does harass or maliciously injure her. Regardless of the purpose, it maliciously injured and harassed her. It's also can be frivolous conduct to say the conduct consists of allegations or factual contentions that have no evidentiary support, or if specifically identified, are not likely to have evidentiary support. Didn't do that secondhand. So the question is, was there evidentiary support for Mr. Granieri's sworn affidavit? What good's an affidavit if you can tender false assertions to a government entity, what is it? Have evidentiary support for a factual contention that Miss Eiskirchen put a sign in their yard without a disclaimer. And I think that the issue is you go to the auditor's website. I think that makes it dead right. It is so self-evident, a comparison of those two photographs. You know, I'm sorry, I'm driving down the street. Okay, it gives me an address. Don't you scratch your head? Is that the house on the left or on the house on the right? Just don't say, okay, I got an address. Well, that's it, without thinking. I mean, come on. I mean, even 16-year-old kids driving. No, there's even numbers on one side, there's odd numbers on the other side. And to blindly say, well, Google told me this is the address. But then, to his credit, he goes to the auditor's website and ignores the information because he was dead set, I have the person, we're gonna get him. You heard about the history of the contentiousness in the Forest Hill School District. It's there, and it can be nasty. But that was not due diligence. To blindly say that's the number and ignore the photographs. The trees are different, the roof line's different, chimneys are different. Besides, Kirkland's house actually is a much older house than the house across the street that had the sign. It was willful blindness. Not saying, hey, let me take this serious. I'm doing something under oath. I'm sending this to the government. I'm going to ask the government now to come after this person. That's exactly what he did. It was all false. Either there is ramifications or there aren't. If people can submit false affidavits to the commission with such willful blindness, it's a sad day if that happens. I believe that sufficiently sufficient grounds exist. At least say it's sanctionable. It is sanctions. It is frivolous conduct, and then let's move on to the next stage. But to say it is not frivolous when it dealt with Miss Eiskirchen, private individual, keeps to herself, apolitical. That was wrong. Thank you.
Actually, I would like to ask a question first, either Kurt or the executive director, and I apologize for not asking earlier, but you know, I'd watched the video from the preliminary review, and it was a little unclear exactly who do you represent in this case?
Miss Eiskirchen.
Okay, I just want to be sure because it wasn't real clear, you know, from the video that I watched. So, and again, I apologize because, you know, I didn't ask Phil and I didn't ask you earlier, and there were multiple people that responses. So I think there is, initially, I would like to point out that my client has testified that he did not come to the hearing, the preliminary review hearing, based on the letter from the commission, which I think we all realized basically essentially tells people you're free to come if you want, or you can watch it on the video, but you don't need to come. Okay, if you come, you may be permitted to say something, you might not be permitted to say something. So people at the preliminary review. Okay, so people, I think often, you know, most people do not come to the preliminary reviews. My client didn't come to the preliminary review. Also, he should have, but he, you know, more importantly than that, he should have received per the commission's rules, and specifically rule 3517-1-04, paragraph B, which is called required service. And what it says is that,
Madam Chairman, I'm going to object. Are we making closing arguments on the sanctions issue, or now we're just going off on tangents to try to raise other issues vis-a-vis closing argument? I thought this was closing argument on the merits.
yes, and I'm not raising this as a legal issue. per se.
I've not heard one piece of argument in about 3 minutes of argument that even addresses any of the evidence.
We have an objection, so I'm gonna say let you rule on the
No,
objection.
rule it. Go ahead.
Okay. Yeah, so the rule basically says that, you know, everything that someone files at the commission, except for that initial complaint, okay? The responses are included in this. The party is responsible for serving a copy of the response upon the other party. That didn't happen here. None of the 4 responses that were filed were ever sent by either Mr. Hardman or the respondent or by the commission to my client. He only became aware of Ms. Euskirken's her facts and the mistake in the house number. When I contacted Mr. Richter, I obtained copies of the responses and I emailed them to my client. And when he found that out, and as he testified today, if he had known that before the preliminary review, he would have voluntarily withdrawn that part of his complaint because he's owning up to the mistake. And he would have taken action to withdraw that at that time if only the rules had been followed and he had been served with a copy, but he wasn't served with a copy. So I think that's an important point to keep in mind here. Because again, that hearing, the preliminary review hearing would not have even gone forward with respect to Ms. Euskirken. And we wouldn't be here arguing about things being frivolous or not frivolous, because that hearing wouldn't have happened. Right? Because it would have been withdrawn with respect to her. Further, you know, Mr. Hardman is talking about the standards for finding something frivolous. So the standard, I'm not disagreeing with what he's saying about what the standard is, but the first one is that the complaint must obviously serve merely to harass or maliciously injure another party. Well, the testimony that we had today about his motivation in filing this complaint was he did not like the fact that people opposing the levy were putting out all these similarly looking signs with no disclaimers, when it was his understanding that you had to have a disclaimer on your yard sign. It looked like it was an organized effort. And there were no disclaimers, and he just felt everybody should be held accountable to follow the disclaimer law. That was his motivation. Sure, yes, he was on the yes side, and he took pictures of the signs on the no side, okay? But that doesn't mean that his motivation in filing a case about there not being disclaimers on signs was obviously to serve merely to harass or maliciously injure. His purpose was to hold people accountable to the law. It wasn't to harass. Further, with regard to Ms. Euskirken, you know, what would be the reason for him to harass her? Okay, or seek to maliciously injure her. She didn't have apparently a sign in her yard, right? He didn't pick on her. First of all, we've heard how apolitical she is. She didn't have a sign in her yard. So why would he intentionally go after her? That doesn't even make any sense. And that's the standard, okay? He has to have intended to maliciously injure the person that we're talking about, which would make no sense. He didn't know her. In fact, with regard to the house, which apparently is owned by people named Daly, where the sign was, he testified he didn't even know who lived in that house. He didn't know who lived there. He didn't know any of the people that he took pictures of and the signs in their yard. So where is the evidence of some intent to maliciously injure people or to merely harass people? The evidence simply isn't there. This was a mistake that happened with regard to one out of 9 of the photos that he took. The second standard for finding something frivolous is if the conduct constitutes allegations or factual contentions that have no evidentiary support. No evidentiary support. Here, there is evidentiary support. Turns out that the evidence may be wrong, okay? But the evidentiary support was he took a photo of the house and then on his GPS at the same time, taps it. It brings up a picture of the exact house that he took picture of with the address. That constitutes some evidentiary support. It turns out that this is wrong, okay? But it is still some evidentiary support that he relied upon. And again, what would be the point of him then going after, you know, the person, Ms. Euskirchen, who didn't have a sign in her yard and who is apolitical? That obviously was not his intent. And you know, when you take the evidence that you have to get the name of the homeowner basically from the auditors, I should say, right? That's where you go to get the name of the person. And it logically, you know, connected the address connected back to Ms. Euskirchen. But again, this was what is probably the clearest evidence of this simply being a mistake. Is it did serve no purpose. He had nothing to gain by naming the wrong party. And people do make mistakes. And you can keep calling affidavits false, false, false. But you know, the issue is whether an affidavit is knowingly false. It's not whether it's false. Okay, it's whether it's knowingly false, because people do make mistakes. You know? And the standard here is whether there was any evidence, and there was evidence. If you were to go and Google that address, you would get still this picture. Okay, so I believe that the standard clearly hasn't been met here, and to show that this is frivolous. There was a mistake made. He would have withdrawn the complaint if only someone had served him as they were required to do with a copy. And I think that has to be taken into consideration. We wouldn't even be here today if that process had been followed. So for all these reasons, I would respectfully request that you find that the burden has not been carried to find that this is a frivolous complaint. Thank you.
Slight rebuttal. I've got the burden, I go last. That's normal procedure. If a proponent offers opposition, then they vote. That's in any judicial body. Could be. 2 points. If he had known prior to the preliminary review, he would have withdrawn it. The bell had already been rung. False affidavit was already submitted. Ms. Euskirchen was already summoned to the government. The bell had already been rung. She had already been harassed. She'd already been injured. Secondly, in terms of the statute and